Hello, hospitality community, and welcome to another episode of our Schulering Hub podcast, Talking Hospitality. If you like the show, please share this podcast with your colleagues. Join our community, spread the word. There is so much for us to learn. Let's evolve together. And today is a special day, hotelier. If you are part of the industry, I would bet some money that your biggest challenge right now is about hiring and rebuilding. On today's show, we'll hang out with John Carpenter from Schulering Hospitality. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mauricio. It is a pleasure. And you are correct. Like the biggest challenge right now, and well, not even just hospitality, but anything that might touch hospitality is hiring. And that is without a doubt plays into a lot of different things. You have the hiring, you have the retention, you have culture, which all kind of plays into one thing, right? Just finding candidates and people.
I feel the pain on our side here, so I know what you're saying, and I want to know a little bit more. So how does Schulering Hospitality help the hotelier with the recruiting process?
Yeah, so we work directly with clients. So anything, from the corporate world, as far as, the big international companies, Hilton, Marriott's, but also the third party management companies who might buy into franchises. We only do management positions from front office managers all the way up to CEOs or VPs. And, we've been doing this for, this will be 21 years now.
Wow.
I've been doing it for 10, and my mother was doing it prior to, so it is a family business. And, how we do it is really about networks. I mean, it's really about, because we've been doing it for so long, and we just, my mother and I had this weird mind that we just remember people. And so when a new position comes up, I don't even have to really worry about trying to find somebody. I automatically come out of my head and say, okay, that's in Chicago. I know 5 people who might be interested. Let's just start the reach out process right away.
It's a lot about networking as well, and it's not about only the skills, right?
Yeah. No, and we don't post any positions or anything. We don't share, anything. We might share it to LinkedIn, but it's not up to us to post a position on Indeed or any, community boards, because the company can do that. They're paying for it anyway. For us, it's really about what we know, who we know, and how we know them, and how we feel like they're going to be a fit.
When I was researching a little about you, when I first got introduced to you by our common friend Vilca Nascimento, and I saw that you said that you develop better hiring strategies, and I got really curious about that. So what does it mean?
Well, hiring strategies really revolves around fixing the hiring within an organization. And so we run these events that that are starting to go nationwide. We've done 2, our third one's coming up. What we do is actually we use local hoteliers to come in and teach and train and have educational conversations built around retention, culture, and hiring. And so while every company is different, when you're looking at, especially when you and I were talking the other day, Prague and Munich and all these other places, it's so funny when you look at a city like Cleveland, where I live, and then we have all the suburbs around, and hiring in each suburb is different. So when we take these events around to Chicago, DC, Nashville, Los Angeles, every little city is different to hire in, every little community. And so, that's how we're able to bring these people together, talk about what's working, what might not be working, what's working in other cities that they're not trying. And so, when I talk about a hiring strategy, it's really built around that. It's really built around how to get a full picture of what you need to do to hire the right people or think outside the box.
I love that you bring hoteliers to the events to teach others how to do things better. Yeah, that's basically what we are trying to achieve. So that's a beautiful thing. If I want to ask you something about the challenges. Yeah, I know that we already agree on that finding and hiring is probably the biggest challenge that the industry is facing. What other challenges you see across?
Retention. Because hiring is such a challenge, the people who are currently there or have recently been hired tend to get a little bit overworked. And so then they start to look elsewhere, right? And because they don't want to work as much. They don't want to work 50, 60 hours. They don't want to work these, so even though you're in hospitality, the ability to find a work-life balance is still there. And so if they've made a decision, they're there for 6 months, retention is the challenge because they haven't filled multiple positions. I know we've talked to a lot of exec chefs who have been running their kitchens by themselves basically for months, and they're just getting worn out. And it's not that they can't find people, it's that they're just not hiring. And the big challenge too is the hiring process. Sometimes it takes 2 weeks, sometimes it takes 2 months. And, once it takes 2 months, your candidate might be interviewing at 2 or 3 other places. So you reach down to make an offer on week 9 that you've been in this process, and they say, sorry, I accepted an offer last week. And now you got to start the process all back over again. So there's a few challenges when you look at it, but retention's the big one. I think that is bigger than actually hiring right now.
If I could ask you for maybe just some value for our listeners here, for our audience, that what would you say to them to help them with the process of retention and hiring and trying to solve this puzzle?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually the retention piece has to start from the day you do hire somebody or before. And I know that sounds weird because you haven't hired them yet, right? And they're not on the staff yet. But the retention piece has to actually be personal. It has to be individualized by person. So you sit down with that person. What do you want to do with us? Where do you see yourself going? And, the old adage, the old words, where do you see yourself in 5 years? But honestly, it's more about, let's cut that down. Where do you want to be in a year? Where do you want to be in 2 years? It's not where you see yourself, it's where they want to be, because they can see themselves as president of the United States, but where are they actually going to be in a year, And, so that's the big thing. And then you have to help them develop that path and kind of go from there to, kind of take them where they want to be. That's the thing that leadership does. When I worked in retail before I came over to here, I would develop leadership plans for each individual person who wanted to be a manager. And then I would help them along the path. I'd give them the books to read, the courses to take, the training that they needed. And I was step by step with them to make sure they were going there. And we found that out in Chicago quite a bit. The people in Chicago and some of them in DC are doing the exact same thing. They're not having traditional interviews. What they're doing is they're having conversations. And so where do you see yourself? What do you want to do? Why do you want to be at this hotel? And that's kind of where things lead. And then you have to help them through that path.
That's amazing. And I like the word personalization of the interview and really taking the candidate, the human, an account, and thinking about them and the plan moving forward, and not only your own needs and the position you want to fill. I love that. I really love that. And any solution, any type of technology that you've seen around that could help the hotelier as well? I know that by what you said, there's a lot of leadership learning here. But is there any tool that you came across that could help the hotelier?
It's actually kind of funny because a lot of properties and a lot of companies are starting to build or use LMS systems, learning management systems, to kind of provide that ability for people. And there's generic ones out there. There's also, when I was talking to a company in Nashville, they have a generic one, but the company they use allows them to tailor the training to their team. And so if they build their own training within this system, and then they kind of use others as well. And so I know a lot in restaurants, and I know a lot of restaurant LMS systems are trying to, because there's restaurants all over the place, but I'm actually working with a few of them to try to get them into hotels, because the line staff in hotels, the front desk, the chefs, the housekeeping, banquets, all those people still need to train, and they still need to learn on the fly, and they're only there for 15 hours a week. And so you have to give them the ability to do it. And it's funny because now that we're in a world of mobile, right? Everybody can do it on their phone. And it used to be you had to do it on a computer or a TV, but now you can learn it on your phone. In this world that we live in, and it's kind of fun because they can on the train ride into town, they can they can take a learning class if they want. And so there's a lot of them out there, but nothing, that I've caught on in the hospitality industry that really leans towards making a huge difference, because each individual company does things a little bit differently.
Yeah, good. Understood. That's awesome. And look, we spoke a little bit about the company in the past, a little bit of the challenges of today. And I like to keep like a timeline. And now towards the end, I like to think about the future. Yeah, I like to play a little game. You can see behind me here, I'm a big fan of Back to the Future. Yeah. And I love doing this game. So we just jump into the DeLorean there. And Dr. Emmett Brown sent you to 2035, and you need a place to stay to complete your mission there. Yeah. How would hospitality look like in 2035? And this is quite a long time from now when it comes to technology. So, how do you see hospitality there?
It is. 2035 is only 12 years away, right? But in light years when you look at technology. So, we've seen so much since 2020 change the world we live in, especially in the hospitality realm. And there's somebody out there, at least in the United States, named Ken Patel, who works with EV Hotel Group, and he's really trying to build the hotel of the future, the robotic hotel of the future. You check in with a robot, the robots clean the rooms, you have supervisors who check them, they're trying to get in with crypto to pay. There's a lot that's leading, but here's the one thing that's never going to change in hospitality. I don't care what you do. I don't care if it's 2035, 2045, 2055. It's a personal service that we provide, right? So hospitality folks are still going to travel. If you're still offering 5-star amenities, 4-star amenities, that's where they're going to go. And I know that Europe, like you and I had talked, Europe was a very personalized experience when you stay at some of these small hotels. I stayed in that small hotel in Paris, just around the corner from the Eiffel Tower. And, somebody was always at the front desk. They greeted us every time we walked in, every time we left. They offered us coffee, tea, hey, there's cookies over there. And, it was a great experience for us, as opposed to you walk out the door of a Fairfield Inn and Suites and nobody knows you left. And, so I think service is going to change a little bit, but the technology side of things will ramp up when it comes to cleaning and, food and all those kind of things. But yeah, 12 years, I think we'll see a lot of difference in 2 years. And, especially what we're seeing in the United States anyway, Mauricio, is a lot of large companies are gobbling up a lot of small companies. And so, which it's good for the smaller companies because they're allowing them to borrow the money to do the technology upgrades. But it also kind of builds conglomerates that, people become numbers. And then again, what you're going to have is a challenge for retention, hiring, culture, things like that. So
yeah, I love the angle you took, because I remember there was a speech from Bezos speaking about Amazon, and they asked what's going to be the future of Amazon. And he said, nobody knows what the future will look like, but I can see which type of behavior, the human behavior, that won't change. Yeah. So I don't see a human asking for something that is coming too fast, or a payment that's too easy to make. Yeah. People want to pay faster and receive faster, and to pay, have an easier payment system. And I love the way that you took that angle, like looking at what it won't change, and that's our desire, to have that service, to have that contact, isn't it?
Yeah, now there will be hotels, and there certainly are now, I think, that you don't have a whole lot of human contact. You can check in on your app, you get the key on your phone, you just walk up to your room, which was pre-assigned, you check in, no housekeeping while you're there for 3 days, and you check out and you leave. And unless you go to the restaurant, you don't have interaction, right? And some people want that, but I don't think, if you're traveling to a new city for the first time, especially coming from cross countries, like you and I are talking about, doing international travel, and I go to downtown Prague, I'm not going to know where to go or what to do. So yeah, the app will tell me do this, do that, but I want to talk to somebody, I want to meet you, I want to be able to say, hey, here's the deal. This is what my wife and I like to do. This is where we want to travel to. Tell me what I can do. And that's what hospitality people will do, Now, if like I said, the ability is both for both of them are there, but yeah, it is a different angle. But I think that this life where we're afraid everybody's going to take the robots are going to take our jobs. Yes, in some things they are for sure, but there's always a person behind it somewhere, right?
Definitely. What we normally say when you get to this point is robots should just take the robot's job and let the humans do the human job, you know? Let's put it simply. Like, John, how can our audience, our listeners, our community find you, contact you, get some learning opportunities?
LinkedIn is the best way, to be honest with you. I mean, yeah, we have our website, sellinghospitality.com. And then, of course, Innovations in Hospitality Hiring, which is our event page, but we're starting to rebrand that actually. And you know, LinkedIn, it just John Carpenter at Selling Hospitality is definitely the way to do it. And, you know, or through Mauricio or Wilka or any of these people that, you know, it's kind of funny because in the past, I've connected with people in London and Germany and things like that, just because, you know, I want to see what's happening overseas to look forward to what we're going to look forward to as far as hospitality goes. And so I choose select people I want to connect with, but I always enjoy it because 2 years ago, prior to the pandemic, I never considered, you know, okay, let's talk with Mauricio and see where we stand and what's going on over there and how things can affect the world, right? Because it's a worldwide industry. Yes. And I think it's the best way. But LinkedIn, definitely, because I'm always on it. I'm always posting. I'm always there. And I think it's the best way to get a hold of me.
Perfect. I will put the links there in our description of this episode. And John, it was a massive pleasure to have you, to share some ideas, to chat to you. And you'd like to leave a message to our audience?
You know, the message I want to leave to the audience is just keep plugging away, because, you know, a lot of people that we have in this industry have either left or, you know, decided to retire. And so if you are in the hospitality space somewhere in the world, somebody will give you a chance. And we've realized that over the last few weeks. Companies are looking at people differently. We're able to let companies look at them differently. So just keep plugging away, keep applying. It may not seem like it's going to come down the road, but it definitely will.
Thank you very, very much for your time.
Thank you
very, very much for this chat. Schulering, thank you for listening. And I talk to you soon. Bye.